Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another weekend preview of the Premier League ahead of match day 4 in the new season of 2025-2026. Thank you so much to all our new subscribers, our usual suspects, and every single one of you. I know on Friday morning we did not get to have our live broadcast in the morning like I had warned you the previous night. That was on Thursday for those of you that were part of the conversation that maybe possibly we may not have the time to do it because I had some very early morning engaging duties. But thank you so much to all those that have been watching our new content. Go over to the video section, look out for that content. We did put out, I think, about 2 videos in the course of the week on Sunday and on Tuesday. Thank you so much for all of you that have watched that content. We do not take your love and support for granted. Continue to do the same, like, comment, and share, and help support the algorithm, push our content or serve it to new viewers. Anyways, the Premier League does get underway for match day 14 with Arsenal opening the fixtures at 2:30 p.m. when they entertain Nottingham Forest, while there will be 5 games at 5 p.m. East African time with Crystal Palace entertaining Sunderland, while Everton will be at home against Aston Villa. Fulham will take on Leeds, while Newcastle will be up against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And then at 7:30 p.m., West Ham United and Tottenham Hotspurs do have a date between themselves, while Brentford will take on Chelsea at 10 p.m. On Super Sunday, Liverpool come at 4 p.m. with Burnley, while we have the Manchester Derby at 6:30 p.m. between Manchester United and Man City. So we're going to try and digest that in this preview, and we'll try to make it as brief as possible. We won't preview all the fixtures, but we may give our predictions. So it's going to be for selected games and looking, of course, at the most important games coming into the weekend. So we'll begin off with Arsenal up against Nottingham Forest. My expectation is, is there a better time for Arsenal to be back from the international break? Because arguably they had some of the best players during the international break. When you look at majority of their players who were away for international duty, they really stars with their respective teams. Mikel Merino scored 4 goals for Spain during the international break, including the hat-trick against Turkey. You look at Noni Madueke, had a very beautiful game against Serbia. You look at Declan Rice, I think he scored a goal and provided 2 assists during the course of the international break. Ebeleche is not the best of games, but at least he got his legs going in as far as national team duty is concerned. Alexander Zichenko with Ukraine, Martin Odegaard, they got to beat up against Moldova. Norway beating Moldova by 11 goals, I think 2-1. So really, they had many of their stars out there shining. And they get to return back to the Emirates Stadium and entertain Nottingham Forest, a team that I think managed to beat by 3-0 in the previous campaign at the same ground. That's the Emirates Stadium. We're talking about a much improved Arsenal side, who, by the way, have their own injury things to worry about. The absence of Bukayo Saka, of course, the absence of players like Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, but at least Christian Nogard and Benjamin White have returned to full training and things like that. So yes, while they have some injuries, I think they won't worry them too much, knowing that they have cover in all those areas. You have Victor Gyökeres to lead the lines. You have Noni Madueke to provide cover for Bukayo Saka, and the youngster Max Doman, who can also come on as a substitute. You have Ethan Nwaneri to support Martin Odegaard. In that role, you have Ebeleche Eze, who I think Arsenal fans are eager to watch in his full debut. They got a glimpse of him in their defeat at Anfield, the previous Premier League outing. So when he came on as a substitute, this time around they're going to be eager to see if the manager in Mikel Arteta can field all his stars. Christian Nogard back in training. Of course, we've not gotten a chance to see him ever since the season kicked off, as he's been out through injury, and Martin Zubimendi has been getting the job done in the middle of the park. So it's exciting times to be an Arsenal fans, if we're being honest. While yes, among the other injured players or key injured players is William Saliba, but yeah, you do trust that Christian Mosquera can provide that cover alongside Gabriel Magalhaes, or if Christian Mosquera is not the one to fit the bill, then it could be Carafiori that plays alongside Gabriel Magalhaes, and then we have a Miles Lewis Kelly being played at left back, or a Pierre Hincap. They have all these kinds of players to their disposal. Julian Timber can be moved from right back to suit, to fit into that midfield. Sorry, that centre back role, and then you get Ben White coming back. Of course, he's just returning from injury, so he may not be washed. Same may apply to any other players that are just coming, like Christian Norgard. So the midfield, I do not expect to find that changed between Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice, and Martin Odegaard. And then, of course, going forward, Victor Gyökeres. My expectation is that it should be Ebeleche Eze and Noni Madueke on the sides. That's on the left wing and the right wing, respectively. And then the likes of Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard, all provide cover coming off the bench. Ethan Wanelli, Max Dorman, and things of that nature. So my prediction is that Arsenal win this one by 3-1. I do not know. I always have this sneaky feeling that at home Arsenal could concede a goal. That's why I'm predicting the 3-1 victory. But they should have no excuse whatsoever not to beat up against a Nottingham Forest side who are under the charges of a new manager in Ange Postecoglou following the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo. During the course of this very week. Yes, we're talking about a manager who got himself sacked at Tottenham Hotspur last season after recording an astronomical 22 losses, which in any other season would have been a really cause for relegation. So, but they finished 17th on the Premier League log, and now he gets to have a do-over with an entirely different team, a team that over the years has been well grilled by Nuno Espirito Santo. Usually played with a low block, looked to exploit teams with the counter, exploiting on the speeds of Anthony Elanga, who was since left to join Newcastle. Of course, Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood leading the lines. He's been quite a brilliant goal scorer. Taiwo Iwoni also chipping in with a few goals here and there. Of course, they will be without some of their players like Savona, Nicolas Dominguez, players like Ola Aina could be out through injury. But again, given the kind of squad that they've managed to build themselves during the course of the summer, then it should be no excuse whatsoever in regards of having depth within that squad, because they managed to build that depth with the anticipation or with the knowledge that they are going to be playing on the continent in the UEFA Europa League, where they will get to showcase their talent, having been elevated from the UEFA Conference League when Crystal Palace were demoted to the Conference League after being found guilty of violating those multi-club ownership rules. So that's my expectation. As some of the key players that Arsenal ought to be worried about on the other side is Elliot Anderson in that midfield. Quite the skilled passer, very good boy. He's within the same brackets of Adam Wharton of Crystal Palace. Then of course Morgan Gibbs-White. We know that a proposed deal to Tottenham Hotspur fell through during the course of the summer. He ended up signing a new contract until June 2028, and he is still a man at Nottingham Forest. Then Danny Ndoye, the new signing, I think he's already off the mark. Omari Hudson. I mean, we're talking about all these players. Chris Wood can be a fox in the box. And that kind of thing. So there's quite a good number of players that Arsenal ought to worry about when they go to take on Nottingham Forest. But like I said, my prediction is a 3-1 victory for Arsenal. Although I must note with concern that usually early kickoffs are not Arsenal's best, appearances, or they do not usually perform very well during early kickoffs like that. Usually it's the underdogs that actually get to tame the big boys when it comes to those fixtures. Anyways, quickly away from that, Bournemouth, Brighton and Hove Albion. We're talking about a Bournemouth side that went into the international break with a joy on their smiles, having beaten up against Tottenham Hotspur by 0-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, quite convincingly, not by the margin of scoreline, but by the way they sort of implemented themselves, by the way they went about that game. They dominated, all the important affairs of that game to win it by 0-0. While Brighton and Albion on the other side are pretty excited about themselves, having beaten up against Manchester City by 2-1 in their last Premier League outing. So clearly, we are talking about two teams that went into the international break with that bit of confidence, given the kinds of results that they had managed to register. And it's no surprise that Bournemouth do find themselves in 6th place after winning 2 of their opening 3 games, while Brighton and Hove Albion have 1 win and 1 draw. So very exciting times. I had thought that given how many players that they had lost in their defense, including the goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga going away, then Dinhausen, Ilya Zabanyi, Milos Kake. I thought Bournemouth could sort of struggle into their start into the season, but they've looked really, really well. So far, so good. So, and that's why I'm predicting that Bournemouth win this game by 2-1 at the Vitality Stadium. Crystal Palace, Sunderland, another entertaining fixture to look forward to. Sunderland have a brilliant start to the Premier League campaign, winning 2 and losing 1, including beating up against West Ham on the opening weekend by 3-0 before losing to Burnley by 2-0 and subsequently beating Brentford by 2-1. So they are a team that had a brilliant start to the season, and they will be looking forward to extending that further. Although the game against Crystal Palace at that compact Selhurst Park could come a little too early for them, and I'm thinking Crystal Palace will win this one by 1-0. Aston Villa up away to Everton at the Hills Dixon Stadium. A bit of a difficult fixture, but Aston Villa not had the best of starts to the Premier League. But I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw on this one. Although I'll edge it towards Everton. Fulham against Leeds. I'm going for Fulham 2-1. While Newcastle versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, my expectation is that Newcastle will beat up against Wolves at least by 2-1. Perhaps we'll get to see the likes of Johan Wissa and Nick Voltmada, get a note in that, Newcastle side, given that those are some of the players that they did sign in the latter days of the transfer window. In the London derby between West Ham United and Tottenham Hotspur, my expectation is for Tottenham Hotspur to go to the Olympic Stadium or the West Ham Stadium and win that game by 2-0. We know West Ham are a bit struggling under Graham Potter. They're on the verge of losing Lucas Paqueta. They've recently had to resign Lucas Fabianski, a player that they had released, deeming him surplus requirements, when his contract ran out, and in an interesting turn of events or twist of events, they've resigned him. So you can see that West Ham are not at it. While Tottenham on the other side, the loss against Bournemouth was a bit of a surprise for me. I did not expect them to lose. I did not expect them to be dominated the way they were, but nonetheless, that's why I expect them to bounce back before we go into the UEFA Champions League, kickoffs, for Tottenham to sort of gain that bit of, momentum before we head into the UEFA Champions League. And that's why I'm giving them the edge. Of course, they do have the players that can hurt this West Ham United side. Brennan Johnson, of course, Dominic Solanke. You do have Muhammad Kudus, Pape Matsa, João Palhinha in that midfield. We're talking all about these very, very decent players. Then quickly, Chelsea-Brentford, another London derby of some sort. But Chelsea, on paper, are the much better team. But Keith Andrews has sort of, in a way, tries to surprise a majority of us in the way his team have fared up in the early start through the window. Yes, they've lost 2 games and they only have 3 points, lying in 15th place on the Premier League table. But when you look at their performances on paper, you do not get too worried, even though my personal prediction was that they will finish within the relegation zone and that they will be relegated. Then quickly on Super Sunday, Burnley up against Liverpool. This is a game I expect Liverpool to win. You've gone to Newcastle and won by 3-2. When we all thought that you were destined for a 1-1 draw. Does it get any better than that? You have had a perfect start to the season, beating Bournemouth by 4-2, and then beating Arsenal, their title rivals, by 0-0 at Anfield, thanks to that Dominic Szoboszlai goal. We get to see Alexander Isak, a record signing for Liverpool, in addition to the skilled Florian Wirtz. We get to see Milos Kakes, who I thought was really, really good against Madueke in that game against Arsenal before the international break. Dominic Szoboszlai, he's been putting in man of the match performances, and yet he is still there for selection Of course, alongside Ryan Gravenberch, maybe Alexis McAllister gets sacrificed in this one. I do not know who gets sacrificed on the left wing. Is it going to be Cody Gakpo to pave the way for Hugo Ekitike, and then we have Alexander Isak start up front? My good guess could be that Hugo Ekitike starts up front, Cody Gakpo on the left wing, and then Alexander Isak has to come off the bench, given that he did not have the best of pre-seasons. We all know how that dragged on, and he refused to go on pre-season tour with the rest of the team. So my prediction for this one is that Liverpool get to win this one by 3 goals to 1 or 4-1 thereabout. Then the big game of the weekend, the biggest game of the weekend, Manchester City entertaining Manchester United at the Etihad Stadium. We're talking about a game that Man United managed to somehow scrap a win off and win by 2 goals to 1 in the previous campaign at the Etihad Stadium. So it wouldn't be surprising if Manchester United went to Manchester City and won a game, and nor would it be surprising if Man City beat up against Manchester United. But like I've always previously said, that there is a way Man United finds the sort of confidence, the sort of the knack, the zeal to step up in big games, and this game does not come any bigger than derbies would come in as far as English football is concerned. So is there still a lot to change or to do for Ruben Amorim? You'd want to think so, but 4 points out of potential 9, not the worst of ideas in the opening 3 fixtures of the game, because we could take context to that and you'd understand why perhaps. But we won't drag ourselves down that path. But my expectation is that this one goes in a draw, although it's more tilting towards Manchester United. Manchester City have their injury concerns to worry about. The likes of Omar Mamouche, Ryan Cherki are some of those that are going to be out through injury. Now, but Ryan Atnori is among those, but given the richness in squad depth, I wouldn't be too worried about this Manchester City side. They can still field arguably one of the best 11s in as far as the Premier League is concerned, even though they do have those kinds of injuries. So let's wait and see. My prediction on that one is going to be a 2-all draw. A 2-all draw between Man United and Manchester City. Of course, on the other side, you get to see Brandon Bomo, Matthias Cunha. Matthias Cunha could be out through injury on this one, but the key battle is going to be for the side of the managers. Who do they choose for their number 1 goalkeeper? Is it going to be Senne Lomans on the side of Manchester United, who they acquired at the tail end of the window from Royal Antwerp, or is it going to be Gianluigi Donnarumma on the other side for Manchester City, who they equally acquired from Paris Saint-Germain? Will Manchester City maintain James Trafford in goal, or Manchester United will maintain Altay Baindia? We know that Andre Onana has left Manchester United to join Trabzonspor over in Turkey. So for me, there's the few pick-on battles that I'm waiting to see in this one. Man United will look to try and overload the left wing, to try and drag Manchester City on one side of the pitch, and then try to create room or space in which Brandon Bomo can run onto or through the other side. Excuse me. So a lot of tactics will be at play. You do not know how is Pep Guardiola going to deploy. Is Tijani Reinders going to click? Rodrigo Cascante, Matthias Nunes. I mean, but Erling Haaland will always remain its weight, and Matthias De Ligt has more homework to do or more groundwork to cover when they face off with Manchester City than he had when they faced off with Arsenal, when he had to cover Victor Gyökeres. So that defense, is it going to be Musa Mazraoui, Matthias De Ligt, and who else? Harry Maguire, is it going to be? We can't wait to see. But like I said, my prediction won't change. It's going to be a 2-all draw between the 2 sides. Do let me know what your thoughts are on those games. The Premier League match day 4 coming your way. On Liverpool, will they win? On Manchester City, who will win? Arsenal, Chelsea. Just put your predictions down in the comment section. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay blessed and bye-bye for now. That's enough for me. Bye.